Skip Weber of the Weber Automotive Group.
A lot of 2026s have come in. Several of our brands, Traverse, Trailblazer, Equinox, we're all about 2026. I think Traverses, we still have a few 25s left, but the Equinox we've been selling 26 for a long time. But the reason why I say that is the stuff that we still have 25s, it's getting to be the point now. This is where there's a bit of extra money from the factory to clean out the old model. Usually September was the sweet spot for it, but it's a little bit sooner now. And it was usually all brands together. Now it's staggered. Right now is the time for a little bit better savings. Now, the other side of that is the selection's a little more limited. There's nothing coming behind them. If we don't have the color you want on the 25 Traverse, we don't have it coming behind it typically. But we can still work with you and find it somewhere else or whatever. My point is, good time to save a little bit of extra money buying the 25 new vehicles as the model year's about ready to complete switch.
Granite City, Columbia, Illinois, Olive and 270, and online at WeberChevrolet.com. The Weber Automotive Group. Sunday Showgram for Sunday, November 9th, 2025 here on News Talk STL 101.9, 94.1, all brought to you by the Weber Automotive Group. Did I say hi? Maybe I should have said hi. And if you've been outside, you know why. And if you like this, stick around for the next 2 days. It's going to be even colder than that. What does it say here for Monday morning, tomorrow morning when you wake up? Temperatures between 21 and 26. Sorry, I had nothing to do with it. As I was saying last week, it's the double whammy. You get the exceptionally cold weather, and also it starts getting dark at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I want to talk a little bit about daylight saving later on in the show. It turns out, I hate to say it because I'm like everybody else, I hate it getting dark so early in the afternoon, but we'll do that story here in a couple of minutes. It's actually pretty interesting. We have a really cool show for you here today. Going to get a visit from the real men of genius. Also, I was out on the field at Busch Stadium a couple of years ago before a Cardinal game, and I had been thinking about this for a long time, so I arranged to talk to everybody from Tony La Russa to Red Schoendienst. Walt Jockney was there. Al Roboski got in, and I forgot who else is part of this thing. But the topic of conversation is, how do you go about letting a veteran player know that it's the end of the road, that it's time to retire? Every professional athlete has to face that scenario at some time, and as you'll hear, it's not people's most fond part of the job to be in baseball management and have to be part of your responsibility. And then we're going to have some fun, too, because we're going to talk about alternate versions of famous songs. And some of this stuff is really going to split your head open because you're going to go, what? Wait a minute. What? What am I hearing? What is this? The Eric Clapton one alone is just going to fracture you. So just stick around for all of that. As we do every week to kick off the show, it is time for the weekend. Pick up a collection of semi-important, usually worthless news and sports stories that may have flown under your collective radar. Time for the weekend. Pick up. For quite some time now, men across the fruited plains, actually, I should say worldwide too, have been swooning over Elizabeth Hurley. Now, when Mike Myers put her in the Austin Powers movie, it was like, okay, this ain't bad. And then, I don't know, sometime in the last year or two, apparently she turned 60 years old, and they started publishing all these bikini shots of her, and she just looks too good to be true. Now, obviously, there's a lot of photoshopping and everything that goes on, but these pictures actually look relatively authentic, which had everybody believing, you know what, I think she probably really does look this good. There's just some people, some women especially, who, I don't know, get good genes and take care of themselves and don't have a lot of kids and don't gain a lot of weight and everything like that, and you just end up looking sensational even at 60. And so, like I said, for the last couple of years, every time a couple of these pictures get published, I mean, guys, tongues just start falling out of their mouths. Well, now we get word that she's been boinking, of all people, Billy Ray Cyrus. Come on! You just ruined everything. For all those years, I was admiring your posters, holding them up with one hand, and never mind. Somehow Michael Jackson is still making money. In fact, he's the highest paid dead celebrity of 2025, raking in $105 million, while you're pushing up daisies. He's followed by Dr. Seuss, $85 million. The members of Pink Floyd coming in with about $81 million. Anthony Hopkins, what is it about guys getting old and they hit, like the low to mid 80s and they just start saying stupid stuff? Anthony Hopkins thinks that stuff like ADHD, OCD, and Asperger's are just a fad, that they're not real. Well, one of my daughters has Asperger's, and sometime, Anthony, if you want to sit down, I'll tell you why you sound like an idiot when you say stuff like that. U.S. box office had its worst Halloween weekend in 31 years. Put out some decent movies, and we'll show up. Maybe, because I don't know about you, but there's a combination of things going on right now. I don't like the fact that everything has been computerized. I used to be able to walk up to the box office, buy a ticket, and walked in. That I understood. Now you walk in. Now I still get to see movies free most of the time, but from time to time one will slip through and I got to pay to go see it. And this happened a couple of weeks ago when I went to go see Soul on Fire, because I didn't get a chance to screen it. Movie about John O'Leary from St. Louis. And you go up and there's nobody there, and you got to go to a little computer kiosk, and you're like picking out seats, and there's stuff flashing all over the screen. Then you go in and people talk because they think they're in their living rooms. I can go to the grocery store and get like 3 liters of Diet Coke for the amount that it costs me to get one little cup of Diet Cola in a cup at the concession stand. This is what a lot of people don't understand. Movie theaters break even on the cost that they incur they basically have to rent the movie, and they rent the movie and then they show it to us. And at the end of the year, when they look at their numbers, it's break even on that part of the transaction. The only money they really make is from concessions. And then you throw in the greed factor. They don't let you bring anything in, at least you're not supposed to. I always do. They don't catch it, but you're not supposed to. And then it says on the ticket that the movie starts at 7:30. So you get comfortable in your seat and you're ready to go. And at 7:50, 20 minutes later, you're still watching previews of movies, 90% of which you have no interest in anyhow. Now the movie starts, and I don't know when this began, but the audio level, my hearing is shot. So for me to be saying, Jesus, it's so loud. I've even resorted to stopping at the front desk there and getting that little hearing impaired box with a pair of headphones and putting those on. And even that doesn't work, but the seats are comfortable because they recline. That's why you're paying $11 for a Diet Coke. So box office figures way down over the Halloween weekend, and a combination of maybe, movies that people don't want to see much. And now with, giant 108-inch screen TVs and big sound systems, everything like that, you can stream something. Okay, it's not usually first-run stuff, but the rest of it, going to a movie theater, has really just turned into too much of a pain in the ass, apparently. Daylight saving time. All right, let's talk about this. Most people are way over it. And apparently, this is proof to me that I had a really good time in college, because I was in college in 1973 when daylight saving was briefly rescinded. I don't even remember this. But apparently in 1973, a couple of congressmen got together and said, look, everybody hates this friggin' daylight saving time stuff, moving the clocks and it being dark at, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So let's just get rid of it. Okay, boom, pass a law, boom, no more daylight saving time. Well, a funny thing happened. In the state of Florida, there was a governor by the name of Ruben Askew. And this guy was a real straight arrow. When you look at his policies, if you Google it or look it up on Wikipedia, he would be considered a Republican progressive these days. But back then, he was considered, like I said, very, very straight arrow. And in the first year alone of that year, 1973, when they took away the daylight saving time, 20 kids in the state of Florida got run over. 20. in 1 year. And Ruben Askew, the then governor of the state of Florida, apparently made some impassioned pleas around the country and with other governors. They have those governor conferences and stuff like that, and just basically said, look, this is too dangerous. We got to go back. So it didn't even last 2 years, the rescinding of daylight saving time. So 20 kids in one state in 1 year, that's a lot of kids getting hit by cars. So when you look at it that way, yeah, I mean, I'm never going to like it. I'm never going to like it getting dark. But that's an alarming number of kids, indicating that it's way too dangerous to have them out at that hour of the day in complete darkness. Okay, you're sitting at a bar and you'd like a little money in your pocket, a little something to jingle around a little bit, so you make a bar bet, and here's one you can win on. There are 4 teams in the NFL that have won every Super Bowl they've played in. What are they? Wrong. Next to show. Baltimore Ravens, Tampa Bay Buccaneers are both 2-0, and the New York Jets and the New Orleans Saints are both 1-0. How many friends do you have? I'm not talking about Facebook friends. I'm not talking about people that you just sort of know. I'm saying, who is going to help you bury a body in the middle of the night with no questions asked? Okay? Average American claims these days that they only have 4 close friends. 4. Both of my daughters went to a Catholic grade school in U City when they were little, and there was a little girl in my oldest daughter's class by the name of Taylor Momsen, and she lived in U City. And the reason I knew her name is because she had just come off of playing Cindy Lou Who in the Grinch movie, the one with Jim Carrey. And that was a really dumb movie, too. You know, Ron Howard has my utmost of appreciation and admiration and respect. But Jim Carrey at that time was emerging as one of the most famous comedians at the time, and not just comedian, a comic, and a guy who could just like contort his face and his body and everything like that. So they completely covered it up with hair and feathers and makeup and stuff like that, so you could barely even tell that it was Jim Carrey. And I always thought that was sort of a bad decision on their part. But anyhow, little Taylor Momsen from U City gets the job playing Cindy Lou Who in the Grinch movie. She's got to go back to school, and everybody knows her because she was a little movie star. And I got to know her parents a little bit. Her mother was ungodly beautiful. So the kids graduate, and it wasn't until a couple of years later, all of a sudden, I see little Taylor Momsen ain't little anymore. She is a teenager, and she is doing the punk rock thing, and she's got like the crisscross electrical tape over her nipples with no shirt on and stuff like that. I'm like, I can't believe that this kid played with my daughter in my basement in Olivet, and now she's running around with a punk rock thing. And then I didn't hear anything about her for at least a couple of years. And just within the last handful of years, she emerges with this band called The Pretty Reckless. And they had a couple of really good songs, too. And also in that tribute to the Beach Boys that was on CBS a couple of years ago, maybe 3, she and another singer from some other band, some guy, came out and did Fun, Fun, Fun by the Beach Boys and hit it out of the park. And so Taylor Momsen is like, 32, 33 right now. And her band, The Pretty Reckless, is going to open for AC/DC on that tour that just got announced the other day. It's going to be making a stop in St. Louis next fall. I was on with Tony Colombo earlier this week in the afternoon show here on News Talk STL. We got talking about this full moon thing that happened earlier in the week, and that you're supposed to take, like a jug of water and put it outside at night so that the full moon can, do something to it. It's supposed to supercharge the water or something like that. And as I told Tony, maybe this is an overreaction on my part. It's possible. But if I see you doing something like that, you're in my neighborhood and you're putting water out so it will turn into moon water, when you wake up the next morning, you'll go, oh, look, it took on a little bit of a tint and everything too. Yeah, that's because I peed in it. Moon water. Most unintentionally funny story of the week is in the state of Kentucky, where everybody got up and was watching the news channels and saying today is election day, and everybody went down to the polling place in the state of Kentucky to vote, only to be told that there were no state were no state elections in Kentucky that day. That was mostly in places like New York and Pennsylvania. Wow. We can't get people to exercise their right to vote during the real elections, but in Kentucky, they're showing up when they don't even have one. Here's another one of those bar bets. And by the way, I'm getting irritated with myself here, so let me correct that right away. If you win, if I give you the idea, I give you the thing like about the NFL teams that never lost and all, and this one here, anything you win, you should send half to me. The Jerry Seinfeld, actually, as I think about it, why send it? Send it all to me. You wouldn't have anything without me. The Seinfeld character dated, during the run of the series, 66 women. The real Jerry Seinfeld came off of dating an 18-year-old girl when he was like 40. And then when he broke up with her, he met some chick at the gym, and she had only been married for 6 months, and he stole the guy's wife away. Jessica, they're still married today. But I mean, how bad could the marriage have been that she wanted to bail after 6 months? Something ain't right there. You know the State Farm insurance jingle, just like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. And also the one for Band-Aid, I am stuck on Band-Aid brand because Band-Aid's stuck on me. I thought it was on you. Well, anyhow, both of those jingles were written by Barry Manilow, which I would have no problem with had he not also done like Mandy and that other crap. I always felt sort of sad for Tom Bergeron because he was there for the beginning of Dancing with the Stars, and then about 5 years ago they dumped him. Well, Tuesday they're bringing him back as part of the show's 20th anniversary. He's going to guest judge on the show. We had him on. He was a very interesting guy to talk to. Steve Martin and Martin Short going on tour next year. It's interesting because I remember, I think it might have been Vanity Fair, when Steve Martin was turning 50, he was complaining about the fact that he was going to be entering his last viable decade. Those were his words. In other words, he figured once he turned 60, show business was not going to offer anything to him anymore, and nobody would want to see a 60-year-old comedian on stage. Well, he's 80 now, seems to be doing fine. We were talking about movies a little while ago. This Kim Kardashian legal drama called All's Fair. It's getting destroyed by critics. It has a 0 rating on Rotten Tomatoes. And my guess is that former NFL star Matt Khalil is going to be getting a lot of phone calls and a lot of women flocking around him when he goes out in public because he's getting divorced from his wife, and his wife says that one of the main reasons that she is divorcing the former NFL star is because she just can't handle the size of you-know-what. Apparently she just couldn't handle it anymore, having him constantly splitting the uprights. That Game 7 of the World Series, and this was a terrific World Series, by the way. I know a lot of people stop watching baseball once the Cardinals are eliminated. That was a bad decision this year because this was a great series. Game 7, 25 million viewers. 25 million. That's the biggest audience for an MLB game in 8 years. But, of course, as our friend Brian Regan tells us, there's just something about those Game 7s.
I always love whenever there's a best of 7 series, because then I get to hear my favorite sports reporter question. Would you consider this a must-win game? You know, they always feel like they have to say yes, yeah, we want to win it. But it's not always the right answer, man. It's a math question. I wish I would answer that question honestly. It's a best of 7, you're down 1-0. Would you consider this a must-win game? No. No, we can lose tonight. We can lose tomorrow night, too. We don't want to, but that wasn't your question. You asked if it was a must-win game, and if you'd ever taken a rudimentary math class, you'd already know the magic number's 3. When you're down 3, then you must win them or you're out. I also don't like when they force answers on players. You know, are you dedicating this game to your dying grandmother? Well, I guess now I am. I didn't even know she was sick. The winning team always gives the losing team a lot of credit. You got to give them a lot of credit. They came to play. They got a good team over there and a good squad. If we weren't perfect, I don't know if we would have won this game. They should hold their heads up high. You got to give them a lot of credit. I wonder if that news ever gets to the losers' locker room. Great news, fellas. I just came from the winners' locker room. I am not making this up. They are giving you a lot of credit. I was just there. I got here as quickly as I could, but it was hard with the balloons and the confetti and all the champagne in my eyes. I was bouncing off walls to share the fantastic news. You're getting a lot of credit for their championship. And they've invited all of you to come over and kiss their rings. You guys are great. Thank you.
For about the last 10 years now, easily one of the top 5 comedians working out there, Brian Regan. I've never seen him bomb. Never seen him bomb. All right, birthdays this week. Earlier in the week, Emma Stone turns 37. Sally Field turns 79. Bryan Adams, 66. Art Garfunkel, 84. Friday, Joni Mitchell turned 82. Yesterday, Bonnie Raitt turned 76. Turning 74 today, a guy I sat next to from St. Louis all the way to Los Angeles in first class years ago, Lou Ferrigno, the Incredible Hulk. Really, really nice guy. He's hearing impaired, so you had to look at him, and he would sort of be reading your lips because, on a plane also, it's so noisy in a plane. You have that rushing sound. But, you don't want to talk somebody's ear off, but you also, want to get to know the guy a little bit. Maybe he'll tell you a story or two. Just a really, really nice guy. About 10 years ago, he was in a Costco parking lot, and a gunfight broke out. And the Incredible Hulk is like, that's only on the movies and the TV. This is real. So he jumps under his SUV until the bullets stop. And this Wednesday is the 3rd anniversary of a surprise Metro East 5-inch snowstorm. I don't think any of the weather people really had it nailed. I mean, it was one of those things where it was skirting past St. Louis at a 45-degree angle. It's not going to hit St. Louis. There could be some problems in Metro East, but when they said problems, I don't think they were thinking 5 inches. It really, really surprised everybody. And there it is, the weekend pickup. That's how we start the show here every Sunday morning on JC's Sunday Showgram on News Talk STL 94.1, 101.9. We thank Skip Weber and the Weber Automotive Group for all of their support. All right, coming up on the other side of the break, we've got some celebrity encounters to tell you about, including one that goes all the way back to 1982 on the weekend that they dedicated the Vietnam Wall, and I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. Also, how St. Louis was a groundbreaker in the area of underboob. These are the kind of pictures where a woman who is topless but not showing the best part, the part that we want to see, because we're used to seeing cleavage. Cleavage gets lower and lower and then wider and wider and lower where you're almost all the way there. But in St. Louis, somebody said, what if we cover the top of the boob and just show a little bit of the bottom? You think I'm making this up? I'm not. That and more on the way. It's JC's Sunday Showgram.
It doesn't matter what you all think. I know I'm a straight man. I know it. And I'll tell you why. I love baseball and boxing, messing around with tools, six-packs and wrestling and smoking a pack of cools. I love watching Steve McQueen, movies on the Late Late Show, and push-ups and jumping jacks. Don't you know what I really, really love more than anything? Are boobies, boobies, boobies in the morning, boobies in the spring, boobies in my face, boobies are everything, boobies.
Boobies in my face, boobies are everything. Thank you very much. There was a reporter, an anchor woman on KMOX a couple of years ago who made an impassioned plea to the male segment of the audience to try to understand, and these are her words, the only, underline that word, the only purpose of breasts are for feeding babies. That's it. And I just looked at the radio and I thought to myself, in what alternative universe have you been living? If you're talking nutrition, if you're narrowing it down to just medical purposes. Yeah, I guess maybe. But anybody, woman or man, who isn't willing to sort of acquiesce to the idea that, hey, they serve a very, very important purpose beyond just the nourishment of a young baby. I mean, if you don't get that, I can't really understand what your life must have been like, because if you have a wacky idea like that, chances are you've got lots of other wacky ideas too that don't make any sense. Oh, I don't know. It's like baseball or the Academy Awards. You know, a couple of months goes by, you can't ever remember who won. But if you're looking for some sort of researched, definitive, mutually agreed upon by both sides reason for the existence of female breasts, you can't reach that conclusion without acknowledging that they're there for our enjoyment and stimulation and manipulation and lots of other shuns. I mean, come on. All kidding aside, what a dumb thing to say. And again, women, let's get serious. There's a lot of stuff that you guys are into that we are never going to understand either. My wife used to come back from shopping all day. She'd walk in the door with like 10 big bags of stuff, and she would stand there and proudly proclaim, "Look at all the money I saved." And I tried to explain that it's sort of interesting you should bring that up, because when I save money, I can point to it. There it is. See all the money I saved. When you save money, the money isn't there. Women, you got to have pesto on everything for some reason. Again, things we will never understand as men. How there could be a football game on, there's 45 seconds to go, with a chance that they're going to tie it up and go into overtime, and you can walk right through the room, glance at the TV, and just keep on going. How's it possible? So in 1983, the year before I got to St. Louis, there was a young woman by the name of Ruth Guerry. She grew up over near North and South, beautiful blonde, and she was picked as the July 1983 centerfold for Playboy magazine. So I get to St. Louis a year later, and I find out that she is always doing fun appearances, and she works as a makeup artist, and she's starting to merchandise some of her stuff, including a new poster called Ruthless. Get it? Ruth Guerry, Ruthless. And one day she showed up at the radio station with a 6-foot tall print of this poster called Ruthless. And one of the reasons they were trying to get the word out is because there was a tremendous amount of blowback from the retailing community, places like, Spencer Gifts and stuff like that. Now, the ones they were selling were not the 6-foot ones. They were just regular poster size photographs. But the word scandalous kept coming out. We're like, well, you're not showing anything. Our entire lives, we've been conditioned to look for cleavage, the top half of the boob. And you're looking, and it's like, ooh, that one's going down pretty far. Ooh, that one's going down even further than that. Ooh, and look at that. Now it's opening up and widening out. We're practically seeing everything. It's almost like it's almost like I can see just the area just to, but you're not. So in this photograph, and this was, for all intents and purposes, the first time that anything like this had ever been seen on a mass-produced level. And in this Ruthless poster, she's got her arm in front of all of the important parts of the female anatomy. But what she is showing is the bottom third or so of her breasts. And people lost their minds. That's scandalous. Why? Because you haven't seen it before. You're not used to it. What you're saying is totally illogical. Why would the bottom third of the breast be more scandalous than a woman showing almost the whole first top half? And I had that big 6-foot tall thing on the mantle above my fireplace for many, many years. Let's see, what year did I have to take that down? Oh, that's right, the year I got engaged. Oh, man, well, I wish I still had that thing. But it was right after that it just seemed to sweep across the country. And now, you see it all the time. But it started in St. Louis. Oh, and by the way, in addition to being absolutely gorgeous, and she's 67 now, and I saw a picture of her the other day, and she looks absolutely sensational. She does a thing on social media called Cabin in the Woods, where she does recipes and stuff like that, and she posts pictures and everything, and she's literally living in a cabin in the woods, but it's like a nice cabin, and it's right apparently near some water because she goes out and fishes all the time and everything like that. She loves just living out there in the country. And we wish her the best. She's a sweetheart, like I said. And when we used to have her in the studio, she was always a lot of fun. One day, somebody brought us a helium tank, an entire tank of helium. We just happened to have it available while Ruth was in the studio with us.
Hello there. I'm very good. Hello, St. Louis.
Wait a minute. That's the wrong Ruth. That's Dr. Ruth Westheimer. Let's get Ruth Gueri in here.
Now, they brought me a whole bunch of helium balloons, and, I mean, what day is complete? I mean, if you have helium balloons, you pretty much have to... Tell you what, before I do this, why don't you take a little of this? Take a hit off.
No.
Yeah, take a hit off of that, and what you'll hear is Ruth Gueri on helium. Take a lot of it. Get really fill up. Come on, Ruth. Really get those. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Ruth Gueri on Casey with JC in the morning.
If only I had been significantly better looking and with more money and driving a nicer car back in those days. All right, celebrity encounters. It was on this date back in 1998 that I was summoned to the penthouse suite of the Ritz-Carlton in Clayton, where actor Richard Dreyfuss was in town. He was in town doing the Jewish Community Book Fair, and I procured an interview with him. Very fascinating guy, a hellion, but also a damn good actor. You know, it's funny, when I was talking to him, he played Bob Rumson in the movie The American President, Michael Douglas. And after he did the movie, conservative politicians would be coming up to him all the time saying, you played that way too convincingly. We've got, because, Dreyfuss has always been known for being a big liberal. It's like, no. We don't believe that anymore. You played that too convincingly. We think that maybe deep down somewhere you are a conservative. I'd play a clip from that interview, but we just ran it on the 50th anniversary of Jaws a couple of months ago, so I don't want to wear that out. So back in the early 1980s, I worked at a radio station called DC 101. This was where Howard Stern was at the time. And I got to know Howard pretty well, and we were friends. Matter of fact, Howard just had a tendency of wearing people out, so that by the time he was packing up his bags to move to New York to go to WNBC, at DC 101, there were probably 3 or 4 people in the building still talking to him, and I was one of them. And then I would see Howard subsequently at the Grammys every year, whether it was New York or out in Los Angeles, and we would have a nice time. And Howard came on the air with us. I'll play that for you some other time. But it was on this Thursday's date, the 13th of November back in 1982. It was the last day that I was in Washington, D.C. because I was moving to Buffalo. I just wasn't being given enough opportunity at DC 101 in Washington. Buffalo was going to give me my own morning show. I figured, sometimes you got to do one of those things where you move back a little bit to get a running start. And it worked because I worked in Buffalo for a year and then got to St. Louis, where I was for, forever. So I had been in Washington for over a year, and I was so busy. I was working 7 days a week, and I never got a chance to go and just walk around the mall and see the monuments and do all that sort of stuff. So it was a weekend. I figured, okay, well, everything's pretty much packed up. I got enough time. I'm going to go down to the mall and see the sights, go to the top of the Washington Monument, all that stuff. I didn't have a chance to go on the White House tour, but I did pretty much everything else. And as I'm walking around, just opposite the Vietnam Wall, I see what appears to be some sort of commotion. So I go walking over there, nosy as I am. And now I'm seeing like cameras and lighting and boom stands and what looks like somebody maybe doing a TV show or a movie or something like that. And I'm walking around and I'm looking like, what's going on? Nobody seemed to have any idea what was happening. And they were keeping most of us, I wouldn't say far away, but they were keeping us a couple of yards away at least. And I'm standing there and all of a sudden I look and I'm like, wait a minute. I know who that is. That's Cher. And I can't believe it. I'm looking at this. That's Cher, isn't it? And the people are looking going, yeah, it sure looks like her. And I didn't even notice that standing right next to her was Meryl Streep. Well, it turned out they were shooting the Washington, D.C. scenes for the movie Silkwood, which starred both Cher and Meryl Streep. Wasn't able to get any closer to them, but it was still, fun. I was, 30 years old at the time, and you're seeing big movie stars. It's a pretty big deal. And for a lot of people, the first time they're ever around watching a movie or a TV show being made, it cures you of ever wanting to do that as a profession, because there is so much standing around doing nothing. I was talking about it last week. I got to be an extra on Miami Vice back in the 80s, and they got us up at 7 o'clock in the morning. We had to be in complete makeup and wardrobe and the whole thing. We didn't even shoot the scene until 9:30 at night. We stood around for 14 hours doing nothing. And when you watch a movie being made, I mean, a lot of times you can have 45 minutes, an hour and a half in between scenes, because they're moving cameras around and checking angles and lighting and all that. And everybody's just standing around. Nuh-uh, not for me. And that wall, oh, geez. God. And this was the opening weekend for it. I mean, there were what appeared to be thousands of military people just wandering around, many of them wearing their fatigues. And, there's a system that you can use where you can put a piece of paper up against a name on the wall and then rub like a crayon on it or something that will transfer the image. And there were people just doing that like crazy. It was an amazing thing. If you ever get a chance to go to Washington, just carve out some time to just go up and down that wall. What is it, 56 or 58,000 names of men and women who perished in Vietnam. What an amazing thing to see. And they have a replica of the thing down in Perryville. I've never seen it, but it sure looks authentic. It's a smaller version, and I think it's also mobile. I think you can move it around a little bit. But anyhow, that's really something to see down there as well, I am told. Also, on Thursday's date, back in 1998, I got a letter in the mail from the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown that said, you know what? When we asked you a couple of months ago to send a copy of your opening day baseball show, we really didn't have any idea, but we listened to it, and it's so cool. We're going to put it in the archives here in Cooperstown at the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. And I got the letter to prove it, the certification letter. That's cool. And on tomorrow's date, all the way back in 1984, I remember this like it was yesterday. I had just broken up with my girlfriend, and it was one of those things where you're like, oh, I don't know if I did the right thing. And it was a Saturday night. I was just wandering around the streets of downtown St. Louis, and it was foggy, and there was a little mist in the air, a little light rain falling, and I'm just walking. I'm totally despondent. And I come around the corner to the marquee of the American Theater. And I remember at that point, oh, yeah, you know what? Somebody gave me some tickets for this show. I look at my watch, and it's like 10:45. The show's got to be over by 11 o'clock, but I'm standing right in front of the building. And I figure, well, I'll go in and see the last 15 minutes. And I walk in, and the place is going nuts. And the last song they did was Red Skies. And the venue, the American Theater, had the house lights turned up because they were like, everybody's got to get out of here. We get fined something like $1,000 a minute if we go past the city ordinance that says all these shows have to be over by 11 o'clock. You guys get out of here. We got the lights on. What else we got to do? Release a smoke bomb, for God's sakes? But they were doing Red Skies, and it was absolutely remarkable. I ran into Cy Kernan years later, lead singer for The Fix, and he absolutely remembered intimate details of the whole thing. We were just talking about it. He said, yeah, that was one of our greatest concerts ever. And I said, well, good, because I only caught the last part of it, but it was just absolutely, truly remarkable. 1984, American Theater. And I don't do any politics in anything that I do on this radio station. Leave that to the other guys. I'm sick to death of all of it besides. So I'd rather just keep doing what we're doing here. On Saturday night, we play music from 6 until 9. Great stuff you don't hear on the radio. And on Sunday morning, we got plenty else to talk about. I think it's sort of a nice little brief respite from all of the political talk where you hear somebody talking to you, but it isn't about politics. That having been said, we had the rather startling results of the election on Tuesday night. And he reminded me of one of the most unintentionally funny comments I think I've ever heard in the election night coverage. And it happened last year, and it happened on the Fox News channel.
Why did Dr. Oz lose? Well, it looks like, according to the exit polling, it's because Fetterman won.
Peter Ducey, Can I have that just one more time?
Why did Dr. Oz lose? Well, it looks like, according to the exit polling, it's because Fetterman won.
Hey, don't try to baffle me with sophisticated political analysis, Peter. One guy lost, apparently, because the other guy won. Okay, I think I can.
There's easy answers to things, but no one thinks of them. Illegal immigration, now Arizona's going crazy. We don't have to build walls. We don't even have to make laws. I say we turn illegal immigration into a reality show where we vote people in and we vote people out. Americans would get involved then they'd care. And because I think we can all agree, there's a lot of illegal immigrants that are already here that work really hard, and we would like it if they stayed. And I think we can also all agree there's a lot of Americans that haven't really panned out. So we just start voting, and then Ryan Seacrest can announce the results at the end of American Idol. He'll be like, joining us this week is Juan Gonzalez. He's been hiding in a garage in Buffalo for 11 and a half years, but apparently he's an eye doctor. Leaving us this week, she has 8 new babies and 6 she already couldn't afford. Say goodbye to the Octomom, America. Say goodbye.
I don't know. Not the worst idea I've ever heard. Thank you, Kathleen Madigan. All right. I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but an awful lot of radio shows that you are listening to in St. Louis right now are not coming from the radio station itself. I'd say, I don't know, maybe about 40-50% of the people who are talking at you on the radio every day are doing it from their home. But I really miss the idea of going into a radio station every day. For one thing, our door was always open and we always had guests. And one day we were told, guess what? You're getting a visit from the real men of genius.
Now, David, the last time you were here, you graced us with a couple of bars of Eye of the Tiger. We put you on the spot. No vocal exercises, no warm-up, no nothing.
Yeah, thanks.
So for that reason, we're going to do it again. We'll even give you a little echo. We'll give you a little ambiance here and everything like that. Can you just give us a couple of bars? Your choice. Ladies and gentlemen, former lead singer, survivor David Bickler, live. Go, Dave.
Rising up, back on the street. Did my time, took my chances. Went the distance, now I'm back on my feet. Just a man and his will to survive. It's the eye of the tiger, it's the thrill of the fight. Rising up to the challenge of our rival. And the last known survivor stalks his prey in the night. And he's watching us all with the eye of the tiger.
Oh, God. Did you notice there was no cheat sheet?
8:25 in the morning.
Congratulations on the success of these whole things. Just a second.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Just a minute. Uh-oh. What's happening?
You thought you wouldn't become a victim, did you?
Here we go.
Bud Light presents Real Men of Genius.
Real men of genius.
Today we salute you, JC and the U-Man in the morning.
JC and the U-Man in the morning.
A U-Man of Genius quick poll. Would you pay $350 for a single concert ticket? If so, how many do you need?
Can I buy half a ticket?
The new book or pamphlet or PDF that will become a movie. 20 Minutes in the Dark with JC. By Jennifer Sparks.
Somebody help me.
Fiction featuring 14 out-of-focus extreme close-up flash shots of JC getting annihilated.
Mistaken identity.
So crack open an ice-cold Bud Light. It ain't a perfect night in Missouri without a little pulled pork and K-Hits 96.
It's whatever you want.
Bud Light Beer, Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri.
Oh, man. Nice job, guys. Yeah. Great guys right there. The real men of genius. Stick around. Hour number 2 of JC's Sunday Showgram is right around the corner.
Thank you, Mr. Cusimano. Within the last few hours, the Cardinals have announced their 2025 Hall of Fame class. Big congrats to the recently passed general manager, Walt Giacchetti, and Fireball former pitcher / broadcaster, Al Rabaski.
No, I'm I'm just getting warmed up.
A little bit later on this hour, we'll grace you with another exciting edition of a feature called It Sucked Then and It Sucks Now. And you might be surprised by this week's selection. Also, we'll talk with our buddy Skip Weber here in a little while. The Visionaries are meeting in Dallas right now to decide what kinds of cars we are going to be driving, and we won't even be driving them, really. We're just going to be operating, and companies are going to be driving themselves, and it's just a really interesting conversation with Skip coming up here a little while. The baseball season is over. Damn Dodgers. I was really pulling for Toronto, and I think a lot of people were. But it's good to see Tommy Edman doing well. I just don't think we're going to have a lot to cheer about again in St. Louis this coming summer. I'll go into it with a positive attitude, but I've also got to be realistic about it. And unless they really surprise us here in the off season, I don't see a lot changing next year. And what are they going to do about all of those empty seats? I'm almost more upset about that than I am about the fact that they don't make the playoffs anymore. The out-of-town broadcasters, a couple of them, I was watching the out-of-town version because I've got that MLB channel where I can get the out-of-town broadcasts. I have found that you learn a lot about your team. Maybe not every day, but you learn a lot about your team at least once every game, every series. I try to watch the out-of-town broadcast. A lot of things that they won't say locally, they will say in the visitors' booth. You can learn a lot. But every spring in Jupiter, people go down there and they get very, very excited about the prospects. Who are the young guys coming up in the Cardinal organization? Who can we get excited about? But a couple of years ago, I decided to go looking in the other direction. To a large extent, at least a part of the movie Bull Durham was about this very thing, about a guy who has been in the majors 10, 15 years, and he might know he doesn't have a lot of time left because he's just getting old. But one day, maybe years before you had planned on voluntarily stepping away, it's the organization that tells you, we're sorry, we just don't have room for you here anymore. That's it. And suddenly a Major League Baseball player who has had not only the money and the glory, but just a certain lifestyle that comes with being one of these, 800 or 900 guys in the world who are able to compete on this level. And that's what I thought was interesting. What happens when the management has to tell a guy it's over? So I posed that question to a group of former players, managers, and GMs whose names everybody around here knows, and to a man, they all said having to tell a player he's through is probably the worst part of being a baseball executive or manager.
Sometimes the best thing you can do is be honest with yourself.
Former Cards manager and Hall of Famer Tony La Russa.
I don't think that's my role. If somebody asked me if I had a veteran in camp and he wanted to know something, I would give him my opinion. But if you don't get any playing time in spring training, you don't make the club. I'm sending you a message. At least you're not good enough for this team.
So many times you don't want to retire, but they're going to retire you.
Ex-Cardinal manager, player, and Hall of Famer Red Schoendienst.
No, and they got to make room for the younger player. And when you get up in age, you're not there anymore. Your zip isn't there, and everything is, going to go down the hill somewhat. And they got to make room for someone. That's the way I looked at it when they call me in. That's always a difficult thing for a manager.
Cards broadcaster Al Roboski compiled a 64-35 one-loss record in his 12 years in the major leagues. Despite his reputation, being rational instead of emotional worked to his benefit at retirement time.
And I think what also helped me was that, hey, I do have a career. I do have statistical numbers that when I played in the major leagues, no one can take those away from me. And so instead of trying to add to those, just accept that those are already in the record books and then move forward.
Because I went through that experience because of the medical situation rather than the physical one.
It was actually doctors who made the decision for Mike Shannon, whose kidney disease cut his career short by years.
Some guys get to call their shots, that they've been around long enough, that they know what they're doing, they know their own bodies, they can determine, well, that's it. Like Kruk, for instance, he got a base hit, he walked off the field, went into the clubhouse, got dressed, and left. It was time.
Walt Jocketty was general manager of the Cardinals for 13 years, and he agrees that having to tell a player he's done might be the worst job of being a manager.
For them, one of the hardest jobs for them is to manage, let's say, the falling star. And as a general manager, you got to figure out when it's time to tell a guy that maybe you should find a different line of work. And I had to do that in the minor leagues a lot when I was a farm director.
Is that how you say it? Are you that direct about it?
Sometimes you are. I mean, you tell them that you had a good opportunity and and the opportunity here is gone. You might want to try someplace else, but sometimes you advise them that, maybe it's time to go back to school or go back, and you're trying to be honest with them. Some guys are actually relieved because they don't want to make the decision themselves.
Unfortunately, we've seen some great ones that maybe got into a financial bind and really tried to extend their career, and they just took a Hall of Fame career and just really tarnished it by extending it.
And a lot of them, quite honestly, don't prepare themselves for after they retire, so they really don't know what to do. So I think some guys try to hang on as long as they can, but it's a difficult thing.
They're not easy discussions to have.
Cards General Manager John Mozeliak.
Obviously, when you think about what you're getting at, it's the end of a line, and it's also it's a dying dream. Sometimes you have these conversations with young guys coming up, and those are very difficult because they never got to achieve what they wanted to. And then when you're talking to a major leaguer that's had a long career, the reality of the end coming is very difficult to accept. You don't want to be forced in the position to have to make that decision for them.
And how difficult can the situation get?
One was with Chris Haas, who was a minor league player, but a second-round pick. Ultimately, he didn't make our AAA club out of spring training, and it was a very difficult discussion. I remember we both cried.
And while there's lots of examples of players hanging on too long, Mike Shannon remembers two exceptions.
I can remember Musial and the great Ted Williams. When they were 38, they had poor years as far as they were concerned. They hit under 300. And then they came back the next 2 or 3 years and they were their old selves. They stepped up their physical routine, and it made them better.
Still, there are those times when that unpleasant moment comes. And maybe it does take a certain kind of person to be able to do it with grace. Cards GM, John Mozeliak.
I just think I've always had an appreciation for where I've been and what I've seen. And I really think what allows someone like myself to do this and not end up drinking or having such a depression is really that I like people and I genuinely want them to succeed, but someone still has to make the decision.
It was Ken Wilson doing play-by-play, and I think what was then called the Cards Cable Network. That was after Sports Time went out of business. Man, oh man, some real memories back to 85. And the Cardinals, at least we have the memories. Like I said, it doesn't look like anything too promising in the near future, but at least we have the memories. All right, it's JC, Sunday Showgram on News Talk STL. We're here every Sunday morning from 7 to 9. We're pulling up old stories and great old memories. We're also here on Saturday night. And, the radio stations in St. Louis are all corporatized. They're owned by these big corporations. And they come in and they go, 350 songs, that's it. That's all you get to play. And they're like, yeah, but what, all these good songs we're not going to be able to play? They're like, don't cause trouble. You want to get laid off? Here's your 350 songs. Take it or leave it. And so most men and women take it. Well, I don't. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of great songs that got played on the radio back in the 80s and the 90s and stuff like that. And that's what we do. We play all those records that don't get records. I said that to somebody who was in his 20s the other day. He was like, oh, records. And at the same time, my 60-year-old daughter, for Christmas last year, got a turntable and speakers, and she's on that thing constantly. She's totally into the vinyl. This is a strange world to figure out sometimes. A couple of people trying to figure it out in terms of our transportation, our cars, how we get around. Is going on in Dallas right now are these futuristic guys, these visionaries who are planning things that we might not see on the lot for another couple of years. Our buddy Skip Weber is there right now. How long was the meeting the other day?
7 a.m. to 1 o'clock.
7 a.m. until 1 o'clock. And what do you talk about for that long?
We're talking about what the future of different things in Chevrolet are. It was a dealer council meeting, a lot of agenda items and what we're working on for the corporation, for dealer relations. Some of it's a download from them to us to what they're thinking and what they're planning, but we're always open to feedback. And then there's several things that we've been working on, initiatives that are programs that the dealers all do that we're fine-tuning or tweaking, or actually a couple of them were really making some major changes to stuff that customers don't see, but what dealer operations and things that we do. And there's always here's what the problems in service are. These are the parts that are seeming to fail on every vehicle and blah, 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 those kinds of things.
And
so they're productive. And we do 4 of them a year face to face. But we're always on the phone with them, with the leadership and other council members all year long. It's pretty important and time-consuming job. And I just rotated off. Yesterday was my last meeting.
Without giving away any company secrets or anything, I'm not asking you to do that. But everybody always wants to know. They get very futuristic. What does the future hold? And of course, obviously, electric cars and things like that. But without telling me too much, could you at least steer us into a direction?
Absolutely. We talked about electric cars a lot. Electric cars at one point in history was everybody's wave of the future. The $7,500 tax credit that the government gives to electric car buyers went away on September 30th. So the demand for electric cars fell off a cliff. I think that in any type of situation where something is ending, sales get pulled forward. People that might have waited till October, November, December to buy, they came and bought in September. So the demand dropping off a cliff, so to speak, is not permanent. There is going to be a demand for electric cars. There is no longer the mandate that has to get to a certain percentage. It's about 15% of the market right now. It should stay probably about that, maybe grow a little bit. But everybody that's driving one now loves them, and so they'll come back and buy them again. We're coming out with a new one. We already have 3 of the best out there, and we're coming out with our 4th one, which was a Bolt, which was in existence, and we discontinued it to roll out our bigger ones, and now it's coming back. So Chevrolet is going to have the 2 most affordable electric vehicles in the Bolt and the Equinox, and the best range in each segment. And we got the best portfolio for it. I mean, by far. I drive an electric Silverado. I love it. It's just a killer vehicle. But the Silverado, Blazer, Equinox, and Bolt is a great portfolio to go along with our fantastic portfolio of gasoline vehicles.
So when you start talking about trends, obviously the shift to SUVs, the shift to front-wheel drive, and a lot of discussion about the future in electric cars. But it also seems to me that maybe even a bigger trend than any of that stuff has been creature comforts. What actually is going on inside the cab.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. And we saw the preview for the next generation Silverado, and the interior of that vehicle is like you're in a luxury Learjet or something like that. It's crazy, and the electronics involved, and what the touch screens look like. I mean, it's unbelievable, and it's unbelievably comfortable too. The seating and the seating arrangements and the headroom and the plushness of the seats. I mean, you would never think that you're in a truck when you ride in the new Silverado that we have now, and it's just going to even get better. So they're always working on those. People spend a lot of time in their vehicles, so we try to make them comfortable for people.
And is Chevrolet keeping its eye at all on the whole idea of self-driving cars?
Well, we absolutely are. I don't think it'll ever become something that's completely takes over, but we have a product right now called Super Cruise, and I have it on my Silverado, and as long as I'm on an interstate, I think 100% of the interstates in the country are in the database, and there's a few non-interstate highways that are also in the database. It's very well known. If you're on a highway in the database, and it monitors traffic and construction also too, and it certainly monitors your surrounding areas. But I could drive from one end of St. Louis on 270 to the other without touching the steering wheel or the gas pedal. And it knows where you're at, and it knows what's going on, and it knows what's around you. Touching buttons on the steering wheel, you could increase your speed a little bit. There is a button to brake, or you can use your brake pedal. So you 2 ways to brake if something really weird happens. But I do it all the time. It's almost like fun to do, and I hate to say that. But there's data on this Super Cruise. It's been out for a little while. It's a little bit of an expensive option, but it's becoming less expensive, so it's on more vehicles, and it's on all our EVs. But there's data shows that the crash avoidance ability of having the Super Cruise on is extremely high. So if something happens and somebody cuts in front of you, the fact that the car is reacting and you are reacting together. I mean, because even though you don't like read the paper, you don't push the button and read the paper. Okay. You push the button and then still monitor and watch. but they've put all kinds of medical science into this, showing how much more relaxed you are if the car's in control, even though you're paying attention. And so you're not as tired if you do this for an hour-long drive, you're not as tired when you get there.
It almost sounds like what they've been telling us about AI is that, you're being assisted by AI.
Correct. That's exactly right. And so I don't think Chevrolet has a mind for where you get in the back seat and the car drives itself. They've been working on that. They've been working on that since 2012. I was at a committee there that went to do a council meeting out in San Jose, and we visited Apple and Google was doing the self-driving cars then, and Chevrolet was part of their research and part of their funding. The problem is we're not talking about, like with AI, if something goes wrong, oh my gosh, I miss an appointment or something like that. This kind of thing, if something goes wrong, people die. You know what I'm saying? So there's just the 1% or the 0.5% fail rate. Well, those 0.5% are lives that are lost. So I don't think that they want to have all the control given to somebody just in case of a failure, and be given to the machine just in case of the failure. So, I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think that we're going toward that. There are those kinds of cabs and stuff like that are doing that, but I don't think you're going to be able to buy it on the showroom.
All right, we're almost out of time, but of course, meanwhile, back at the ranch, you've got Chevy dealerships in St. Louis and Illinois to worry about, and let's just talk about that real quickly as to what's up. I know we touched on it briefly last week about the way you're going to do Black Friday this year, so just go through that.
Right. We're going to do Black Friday. We did it last year this way, and it worked really, really well. Black Friday as a event has kind of lost its luster a little bit with the advent of ordering online and all this kind of stuff. So we decided that we were going to do the whole month long rather than make people wait, rather than make people get up early. So every Friday we're going to have specials. So every Wednesday there's going to be about 10 to 15 vehicles per store that go onto their website that are above and beyond great deals. Okay, so we're going to have great deals on everything all month long like we normally do, but there'll be 10 to 15 individual deals. And then on the real Black Friday after Thanksgiving, it'll probably go up to 20 to 25 deals per store. But there's no time constraint. It'll be just for that weekend. So the Wednesday will come and you'll see what you can get as a super extra deals on Friday or Saturday. And of course, if those are not the things you buy, we still have everything else is priced extremely aggressive and extremely good savings.
All right, check it all out. The Weber Automotive Group, WeberChevrolet.com, Granite City, Columbia, Illinois, Olive and 270, and of course the Ford dealership in Metro East as well. Skip, have a safe trip. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks.
Thanks, JC. I appreciate it.
JC, you know.
She grew up in Webster, went to Narix Hall, landed a primo role on The Office, started making movies, and the rest, as they say, is history.
When I say the pride and joy of Narings Hall, just to tell me, almost everybody who comes into the business of show biz goes back and says, there was this one teacher, this one instructor, this one experience I had back when I was in high school or college that really made me believe I could do this for a living. If I were to ask you that question, which I am, by the way,
okay,
just talk about what your time at Narings Hall was like in terms of how it relates to what you're doing now.
Well, I was in the public school system, and I was very, very shy, and I remember I decided to go to Narix. My mom teaches at a Catholic school, and I really liked the girls that were in her 8th grade class that year. She teaches 8th grade, and they were all going to Narix, so I thought I'd check it out. And I remember sitting on, the second day of school in homeroom, and they made an announcement, and they said, we're going to have our student government elections. So put in your nominations for president and vice president and all that. And I was sitting there, and I thought, oh, my gosh, a woman is going to be president of the class. Because that's all we've got. There aren't any boys here, so there's no boy to be we're going to have to do it ourselves. And that sort of started a whole experience at Narix where I felt very empowered, and I found my own voice. And I think I'd always kind of just stayed in the background, but Narix really encouraged me to, and it's not like I ran for student government or anything, but it was just that idea that, as a woman, I could do everything a man could do. It occurred to me, in a way that it hadn't before, and I think it gave me a strength that I just know that I would not have had if I hadn't gone to that school.
So in addition to Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story with John C. Reilly, which we'll talk about here in a minute, you got a hit TV show. When did you know The Office was a hit? Was there some seminal moment where you could look around and go, oh my God, people are watching this in droves?
Well, I remember we would call every Friday morning from the set really early. There's a phone number you can call to find out what the ratings were the night before. And I remember there was this one day, and we called the number on Friday morning, and I was in the conference room with Phyllis Smith, who's another St. Louis native, and Angela Kinsey, and we called the number, and we had our highest rating yet. We, had beat another show or something. And I looked at Phyllis, and she goes, what? And I told her what the number was, and she started to cry, and I started to cry. We were so excited, because I think in that moment we thought, we might actually get to do this job for a long time. For 7 years, I'm like the slowest overnight success of all time. I did mostly temp work. I was signed up at a temp agency in downtown Los Angeles, and I was a secretary and a receptionist. I really just was Pam, except I bounced around from office to office, and then I would try to get creative. I answered an ad in the paper to be a telephone psychic, and I did that for about 3 days, and I was a caterer.
And now this movie, Walk Hard, and we're hearing all these stories about full frontal male nudity, female nudity. As a matter of fact, John C. Reilly says, we filmed so much sex that it's not in the movie, but it's going to be an amazing DVD.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just talk about that a little bit.
Well, it was kind of crazy. I went down to the set one day before I had officially started on the film just to introduce myself to everyone, and I was greeted by John C. Reilly in a little pair of red undies, little pair of red underwear. And I said to him, I'm so sorry that I caught you on this day. I feel if I had known that this is what you were wearing today, I would have picked another day to come down and say hello. And he was like, oh, no, this is more than I've worn in the last 3 days.
Wow.
And I thought, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into?
And
I do not disrobe in this movie.
You get to show off the girls a little bit, don't you?
The ladies are loud and proud in this movie.
And this character, just tell everybody who you play in the film.
Well, Dewey Cox is a fictional music legend, and the movie is kind of the rise and fall of his career, and you watch the whole thing. And I play his second wife. I'm kind of the woman who stands by him through his ups and downs, and we have a very tumultuous relationship. It's kind of like a June Carter Cash type role, with big hair and skimpy outfits and lots of makeup. It was a lot of fun.
I am so there. You coming home for Christmas?
I sure am, yeah. I guess my mom she's like the cruise director of our family, and the day after Christmas, we've got some elaborate half-off Christmas shopping that we're doing. Sales. She's got 7 stores on our agenda.
It is Jenna Fisher for The Office, and also now in Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story. Have yourself a great Christmas. Stop by and visit us again soon, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thanks, Jenna.
For a hole in your head or a whole new head, J.C. Corcoran, he's back.
I am. In the meantime, we've beaten this one to death. Have a good one. See you later.
Well, this station wouldn't last a week in Mayberry with that attitude.
Bye.